Good afternoon, everyone, and everyone on the call. Welcome to our first the Veterans Advisory Board session. We look forward to having an exciting meeting. We look forward to all of you being a part and continuing these meetings. Our next one will be in April, and we hope to see you and more veterans there. I want to introduce everyone to the chair of the Veterans Committee under the New York City Council, Council Member Robert Holden. We want him to come and greet us and in his own way. Mr. Council Member Holden.
He can Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much. And I guess it's not too late. Not too late to wish you a happy New Year. I think we're already well February, but still it's relatively a new year. But I just want to say what an honor it is to be the newly appointed chair of the Veterans Committee in City Council, and to speak of you guys today. This is I want to thank you all the Veterans Advisory Board members for all the work you did and continue to do in the coming year. And I'm excited about being chair of the Veterans Committee. The last 4 years, I was chair of the Technology Committee, challenging. This is going to be even more challenging, trying veterans the benefits that they deserve, connecting them with their benefits, and coming up with legislation that certainly will help the veterans in our city. And way there's so many things that we have to tackle this year. And I had a marathon day yesterday, meeting with veterans groups, and certainly with Wendy and John Owen, who lives in my district, by the way, lives down the street from me. He's going to be a person that I'm going to have a good working relationship with, because I know him for years, and I offered him a desk in my office. And he didn't ask me for a phone, but I can give him that too. So going to be interesting to work with John and Wendy and all of you. I have a lot of a laundry list of things we have to work. And by the way, Craig Carawan is my legislator. He's on this Zoom. And like I said, the chairwoman McClinton, we had a very good conversation yesterday. Covered area. And what I want to do is just tell you about myself, and I'll be quick because I know you have probably a busy agenda. But I come from a veterans family on both sides. My wife's father was career Army, served in 2 wars, served in World War II. Actually, was part of the Normandy invasion, and then fought in the Korean War, and very tough fighting in that war. And he's in the service for 20 years. I want to remember visiting the commissary at Fort Hamilton on a regular basis. The family had rights to do that, and that nice long. And on my side, my father fought in World War II Philippines, was medical unit, saw horrific fighting. They were trapped in means, and he talked about the war, and he came back from war, not same man. Let's put it that way. And I did some of you this my father's plight, post-traumatic stress that he came back with, undiagnosed, and it took us almost 50 years to get him 100% disabled. And my mom negotiated with the Veterans Administration and didn't get anywhere for so long. Finally, we did when I went down a couple of times in the early 90s. And then a few years later, my father passed away. So he didn't really reap the benefits. The family did, by the way, my mother did, was able to afford things, but she was the bread, but she was everything in the family. My dad couldn't hold a job, unfortunately, because of what he experienced in the war. And it was only after my father died that my uncle came to me and said, you were really hard on your, because we didn't get along, because of his problems. And he said, you were really hard on him. You didn't understand. You never met the real Joseph Holden. I said, he is, because the war changed him. He was the greatest guy I knew. And then he came back from the war and he wasn't the same because my father had to pick up these and had young men die in his arms, and he went through it. So that's my background, and my mom continued it. By the way, my mom met my father through the war, writing letters. She was a pal to the servicemen, and one of the people she wrote to was my eventual father, who friended through my uncle, and they met at the war and got married away within a year, and then my mom would take me, and I would go with her to the Veterans Hospital in Manhattan, and she would volunteer on weekends to read servicemen who were in the hospital. And she did that for decades, well into her 80s. When I finally said, "You can't be doing this alone. You're 85 years old. You're doing this." So she joined the Ladies Auxiliary at the local VFW. She did everything. She took me marching in parades as a kid, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So I got a good lesson. So it's really kind of, right now my mom's fighting with pneumonia in the hospital. I just want to tell her, and I can't communicate with her yet, but I wanted that I was appointed Veterans Committee chair because I mean a lot to her. So it's come full circle. I'm really to be the Veterans chair. I'm looking forward to a lot of things that need correcting, and already trying to introduce legislation. We've and Craig, do you want to talk about that legislation? Just let Craig jump in and talk about. Did that go through? Did we get that to the council?
Yes. So there's already legislation in a couple of different bills. One would help protect VFWs and American Legions or any veteran service organization who owns property, who may be facing fines from the Department of Buildings. So there'll be a 120-day grace period where essentially you could try to correct the problem. There's a number of other points within the legislation. So we did put that LS request in after the meeting we had yesterday. And then there's additional legislation that we'll be reintroducing from the last council session that assists small businesses. And there was an excellent small business study done on ways the city can better assist veteran small businesses. One of them being allowing when you're applying for a city contract to identify yourself as a veteran-owned business. So that'll be a drop-down menu when you go to apply, that you could identify yourself as a veteran-owned business. And then I'll actually put while we're on here, I'll put the study in the chat so you could review. The study, and we basically said, hey, all the recommendations that came out of this report that the city did, we should actually make into law. So I'll put that in the chat for you guys to review as well.
And so, see, within one day, we got going after talking to many of you on this Zoom. We put it in. We know there's some state bills, but we felt the one with the buildings that sometimes would target VFWs or other posts, that could go to the city council and believe that would be and try to push that forth, and certainly with your help we could probably get that through hopefully this year. So by the way, so my other background, before I was an official, before I became a city council member, I was over years as a professor at CUNY, New York City College of Technology. So I can't tell you how many veteran students, but they were always near and dear to me, and really worked hard. They were usually slightly older. Sometimes even when I first started, they were much older than I was when I started as a young professor. But really a pleasure working with them, and I understand some of the need that we can help them out at CUNY in higher ed. But we're all in this together. I'm going to work hard. It won't take long to really show that I mean business in the city council, and certainly advocating on behalf of all of you and the veterans and so looking forward to sitting down with Commissioner Hendy, by the way, that on Monday virtually. Then we're going to do something a few days later. And so and I also look forward to meeting board members at some point. So we should be regularly, Wendy, and thanks for inviting me tonight. I just look forward to working with all. It's going to be an exciting year, and I think a little bit more of a challenge for me than the technology committee. We did a lot of good technology, but this, I think, to honor my certainly my father and mother-in-law and the families, but also mother would love this, and I just can't wait to, if she hears saying, and she's going in and out of a coma, but if she does, I just hope that I can get this through. The first thing I'm going to do that about being selected as Veterans Chair. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for listening, and let's get roll up our sleeve. We'll get to work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Councilmember, and thank you to your team for joining us today. Before we move on in the meeting, I want to introduce the board of VAB that are here tonight. And I'll start with myself. My name is Wendy McClinton. I'm a 10-year United States Army Desert Storm Persian Gulf era vet, and I represent the borough of Brooklyn. I'm also the chair of the Veterans Advisory Board. Mercedes?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mercedes Elias. I am a Marine Corps veteran, veteran from the Afghanistan War, and secretary of the board, and I represent Queens. I'll pass it over to Joe.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? My name is Joe Bello. I am a Navy veteran, 11-year Navy veteran, and I represent the borough of Bronx. So I don't know who we can turn it over to next. John Rowan.
Good evening. I'm the lone Vietnam veteran holding on here, representing all the old folk. And I was Air Force a couple of years, and look forward to working on this. I was working on this Veterans Advisory Board before it even was a Veterans Advisory Board, and go back to the Lindsay administration. And I'll tell you how old I am. Anyway, who's next? Who's next up there?
Should be Jen.
Jen?
Hey, sure.
There she is.
Jen Kamrowski. I'm an Army veteran and I represent the borough of Manhattan. I don't know if Todd is also on or.
He's not. He's on a flight, so he's going to join us just a little bit late. And that's who we have. Wendy, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone again for being in attendance. Don't forget to please share the information. We have the flyers. Send it out to your veteran family, your veteran families, your veteran organizations, so that we have everybody on the call participating. Next time we have our next veteran piece in April, let's bring another veteran so that we can make sure all the information is heard. And we need to know your voices from the field to find out what's needed, what works and what doesn't work. All right. Right now, I want to introduce you to Commissioner Hendon of New York City DVS, and he and his team are going to come before you and share some interesting news and their views for 2022. Commissioner Hendon.
Hey, Wendy, thank you so much. And just first, just want to give honors and salutations, recognizing new Veterans Committee Chairman Holden. Look forward to working with you in the years ahead. And thank you so much for just, being a part of this team as far as being in this community. Also recognizing our Veterans Advisory Board, Chair Wendy McClinton, Vice Chair, Charles Hernandez, and Secretary Mercedes Elias, along with other members. And, especially want to just recognize everyone here for just taking the time to be a part of this discussion we have as a community with what we're doing, what we're how we are and our families are moving in the right direction as far as New York City and its veterans. So there's some specific points that the board wanted us to address. Before we address those, I want to say some brief things and then we'll get into it. The brief thing I wanted to say was reach out to us if you need anything. Call the Department of Veteran Services. The phone number is 212-416-5250. 212-416-5250. The email address is connect@veterans.nyc.gov. It's connect@veterans.nyc.gov. On social media, our handle in various platforms is @NYC Veterans. It is @NYC Veterans. And of course, the website is nyc.gov/vets. It's nyc.gov/vets. So anything that you can do that you or anyone connected to you needs between veterans and their families, please reach out to us, take advantage of any and everything we have to offer. Just have to always say that shameless plug. The other thing, just for everyone to know, when we look at this year, as far as 2022, the three primary goals for us are summed up: expanding benefit access is a top goal. Secondly, is increasing entrepreneurship employment opportunities for our service members and their families. And number three is to increase the number of transitioning service members who live, learn, and work in New York, the number of new veterans who choose to be here. An enduring goal for us is to be right with our veterans as far as any mental health and wellness needs. That's not any particular year, that's always as far as the mental health piece. So one more time, just when you think about us and our work, benefits, top of the ticket. Number two for us is employment, entrepreneurship. And then the number three is to increase the number of service members, past and present, who live, learn, and work here. And mental health is an enduring piece for us. The issues that the board wanted us to address today, which we will talk about, one was the status of claims as far as the VA claims work that our agency's been doing. Two was employment efforts, what we've done as far as advancing things on the employment front for our veterans. Three was, housing issues involving our veterans, to speak specifically to those. And four was what's going on with our veterans on campus work. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Amari Espinal from our team, who will talk with claims. He'll then shift it over to Jason Larford, who'll do employment. Dana Rock from our team will do housing, and then I'll close this out with veterans on campus and open up for any questions from anyone in the audience. So turn it over to Amari.
Sorry about that, I was on mute. Thank you, Commissioner, for passing it over to me. My name is Amari Espinal, Director of Community Services at DVS, Army veteran, OIF, two-time OIF. So I'll get right into it. There were a few questions regarding claims. So the first one was how many have been processed and how many have been approved. So currently, New York City DVS has submitted 226 claims. Of those 226, 117 claims have been processed by the VA, that's the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. New York State Division of Veteran Services provides quality assurance for those claims that is submitted by us, New York City DVS, which is why there's a bit of a time lag before. Just want to make sure that every claim is submitted correctly and as accurately as possible to get the maximum return for that veteran or their dependent. Then we have what's the average duration for processing? At present, it takes approximately 160 days. That's give or take 5 to 6 months for the VA to make a decision on a claim. Again, that can vary depending on how long it takes to gather all the evidence for that veteran's claim. So there's many variables that factor into that. Next is how many staff are processing claims. So New York City DVS currently has 3 full-time staff who are submitting claims, in addition to 1 full-time staff who supervises the claims team. Next, what is the average disability percentage received and how much funding for approved claims has been recognized for the city? So New York City DVS was expecting a full report from the State Division of Veteran Services, which provide outcomes data that speaks to the VA's decision in regards to disability rate, compensation, pension, and other benefits that are tied to service connection. We're still waiting on that report. However, in the meantime, we are working to have someone go into the database manually. That's the Veterans Benefits Management System, or VBMS, to extract that information. And we're really itching to get that information as well for ourselves. So we're excited to learn about the hard work that our staff has done. And we're, of course, more than happy to share that information once we do receive it. So that's all I have for now. I'll pass it along back to you, Commissioner.
Yeah, hey, before passing the mic to Jail, I want to be clear. With claims, once we have that data, we're going to start to put it on nyc.gov/vet reports. We want to make this stuff publicly available. We started doing claims in July of 2020. Our first full year was 2021. We've been expecting to get some sort of breakout from the state with exactly what our numbers are as far as, you know, how much has been awarded to people and what the percentages, et cetera, so we can be able to report on that. We've not gotten that breakout. We learned that it's not going to come as easy as we thought from the state. So we're going to have someone manually go and look every single veteran up and constantly check the people whom we've submitted so we can get this data. And as soon as we get it, we want to make sure that it's on nyc.gov/vet reports. So anyone who wants to know what's going on with our claims work will be able to see it there. And to double down on what Amari said, we do the claims work, then it's quality assurance, a QAQC by New York State DVS, and then submitted to the VA. And so just, you know, once we have it, we'll let the board know, but it'll always be available for folks on nyc.gov/vet reports as far as what we're doing penetration wise with number of claims submitted, what the, you know, the dollar amounts tied to that claims work, and what the percentages are as far as the median percentages for them. So just want to put that out there. Going to move on to the next question that was asked, that we addressed, was about employment, and turn it over to Jason Laughlin from our team.
Hey, thanks, Commissioner. And so good to see everybody. I'll echo the Commissioner's words earlier too, in that it's great to see the new chair here. New faces and familiar faces in the new year. We're all really excited about this new chapter for DVS. So jumping into the employment question. The question for everybody is, what is DVS doing to ensure gainful employment for veterans in New York City? And if we could speak on current initiatives and address if we're doing anything to get certifications from the military, such as licenses transferred to be able to qualify for requirements for positions within the city. So first off, we're going to continue on the trend of shameless plugs, and then I want all of you guys to visit nyc.gov/vetjobs, nyc.gov/vetjobs. There's a number of resources there that DVS provides. We also just finished our acceptance of applications for service to service, which is our mentorship platform to help connect veterans with mentors in New York City government. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Empire Vets and our new online tool that we launched in VetConnect Pro. VetConnect Pro is a employment tool to help New York City veterans find opportunities within the city, both in the public and private sector. VetConnect Pro is powered by a company called Job Paths, and they have a MOS translator that's a proprietary algorithm that includes the 7,500 military career codes for transitioning service members. And what's unique about this tool for everybody to learn more about is that we are the only municipality that is utilizing software like this to translate those military experiences and skills to civil service exams and New York City jobs, specifically in New York City government. What's also unique about this platform is that we want to educate people and connect people to the 55A program. If you're not familiar with the 55A program, we'll be sure to put it in the chat here so you guys can read up more about it and check out more about it on VetConnect Pro, the platform. But in short, VetConnect, the 55A program helps certified folks with certified disabilities, both physical and mental, to enter New York City government through not having to take a civil service exam. So this is very important for all of you to take advantage of. As we all know, in the veteran community, there are high probabilities of disabilities because of our service. So I want you all to take advantage of that program and continue your service to the country, but more specifically here in New York City, and help us continue to make this city even better. What's also unique about the VetConnect Pro tool and the initiative we launched is that for the first time, we've partnered with SBS and MOU. SBS is the Department of Small Business Services, and MOPD is the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Both of those agencies have employment programs that support veterans in some way, shape, or form. SBS has a Workforce One team, veteran employment specialist that a veteran can get connected to help them navigate employment opportunities in the private sector. And MOPD has a program called New York City at Work. And that team helps folks with disabilities get connected to employment opportunities, specifically also in New York City government. So through our partnerships with both of them, for the first time, those two organizations will be utilizing our system, VetConnect Pro, to help navigate veterans in the system to those positions. And you can chat directly with those veteran employment specialists to talk about your resume, to talk about training opportunities, and to learn about new programs or new vacancies in the private and public sector that those folks would recommend for you to apply to. Lastly, I want to discuss the Empire Vets partnership we have as well. Empire Vets is our exclusive partnership to help navigate private sector employment. So if you are a private sector employer or you are a veteran job seeker also looking for private sector employment, we highly encourage you to go visit our Empire Vets platform. Lastly, what I'll say is that in addition to the Empire Vets platform, we offer a leadership committee that's comprised of veterans and allies across industries and organizations through New York, like JP Morgan, CVS, NYU, Vets for Warriors, and more. So to collaborate to help with veterans in this area of transitioning, networking, and employment. So please visit VetConnect Pro to not only address your employment needs, but also connect with critical resources like building a federal resume or a regular resume, and finding New York opportunities in the public sector, New York City government, to continue to serve your country and help New York City grow as an emerging city that is becoming more veteran friendly every day with all of you. So I'm going to stop there and pass it over to Dana Rock to talk about the housing question. Thank you all.
Great, thanks, Jason. Can everybody hear me currently? If I don't hear anything, I'm going to keep going. Speak now if you don't. My name is Dana Rock. I'm the Director of Housing and Support Services here at DVS. There were 3 questions that I'm going to start off with answering and talking about, and then I'll be here as it goes on this evening to answer any other questions related to housing. Oh, thank you. The first question was status of housing vouchers administered through the HUD-VASH program. So for those of you who don't know what HUD-VASH is, it's HUD's Housing Choice Vouchers and Veteran Affairs Supportive Housing. At DVS, and how this sort of breaks down for us, is that we partnered back in 2017 with RVAs and NYCHA to pilot a program called the HUD-VASH Continuum. So traditionally, HUD-VASH is for folks who are eligible through healthcare through the VA and are currently experiencing homelessness. DVS, we noticed that there was a gap in services for veterans who were disconnected from the VA. So back in 2017, we piloted a program called Continuum that was for veterans who are ineligible for healthcare. They have an other than honorable discharge, they didn't serve their full term, whatever the reason is that makes them ineligible, we have the Continuum program for that. Since we piloted it back in 2017, we've been able to successfully house 259 veterans utilizing the Continuum voucher. Traditional HUD-VASH comes with case management from a VA provider, and the Continuum comes with case management and support services from here at DVS with our veteran peer coordinators. So that is our update on Continuum. When I'm done chatting, I will put in the box, I will put in a link to our website that has information on Continuum and how to contact us to apply. If you are a veteran experiencing homelessness, I recommend it to reach out to us to get support services. If you're an organization that is supporting veterans who are experiencing homelessness, also check it out to figure out what the requirements are for eligibility and link to us to apply. The second question tonight is there a preference to, is there a possibility to establish preference for Housing Connect in Mitchell-Lama housing for veterans? For those of you who don't know what Mitchell-Lama is, it's a program that provides affordable rental and co-op housing in New York for moderate and middle income families. There are Mitchell-Lama buildings that are run by the city through HPD and state-run facilities through HCR. There is a preference for qualifying veterans. I will also drop in the chat box what it means to be a qualifying veteran, and this applies for veterans and their spouses, surviving spouses. When you apply for Mitchell-Lama, there's open wait lists. Once you apply, if you're selected for the lottery, that's when the preference comes in. You'll fill out an application. On the application, you'll have to select that you are a veteran and that you're applying for the preference. When it comes down to the application and the interview process, you will be required to submit documentation showing that you're a veteran. If it turns out you are not eligible because you don't meet the criteria, you will not lose your spot in the general waiting list. They'll kick you back over to the normal wait list and you'll be removed from the veteran preference. But there is a preference for Mitchell-Lama. I will drop the chat. Our website has a link to it, and HPD's also has the link to the veteran preference for surviving spouses and households. And the last question that was asked for us tonight was, for veterans currently in homeless shelters, what is the plan to move them to permanent housing? I want to remind that at DVS, we have a team of veteran peer coordinators. We have 5 VPCs that are currently out in shelters. They've been back in the shelters. They're there working alongside our partners at DHS, HRA, the VA, all the providers who are working with those who are homeless. We're there supporting, trying to get veterans connected to eligible programs such as HUD-VASH, Continuum Supported Housing. We're working with the providers. We have our weekly check-ins, and our coordinators are out there, veterans through the process, trying to get them connected to programs that they're eligible for, and then getting them connected to housing. If you'd like to contact one of our team, like I said, I'll put in the chat, our contact information. Once you go through our office, you'll get connected to a veteran peer coordinator who will work alongside any vets who are currently experiencing homelessness. And I will pass it off. I think it goes back to you, Jason.
I think I'll finish this out if it's all right.
Okay,
All right. So
thank you so much.
yeah, no, it's okay. Last question that was asked was about what we're doing for recruiting to recruit veterans, as far as recruiting more student veterans to New York City. What are our plans to get more veterans to attend school in NYC? To talk broadly about it, the strategy for us is to attract someone who's still in the military to New York City by going to school here remotely. So let's say I'm in the Navy and I'm in San Diego, and I'm looking at options to use tuition assistance benefits for. We want people to know that CUNY is one of those options. Looking at expanding the Rolodex, but right now, CUNY School for Professional Studies offers a scholarship to cover the gap between the tuition assistance amount that someone gets from the federal government and what the price point is to attend CUNY online. And so step one is us making sure that as many veterans as possible, or future veterans, know about this. So if you get them to start attending remotely, at some point, we believe, they'll transition to being a student in person and hopefully getting a job here and living here. So live, learn, work in New York. Right now for CUNY's scholarship program, we've socialized it with the voluntary education sheets for each military service branch. So the folks for the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, Coast Guard are aware of this. And Space Force is covered down by Air Force still with this. At the lower levels, we are socializing this with the education center counselors on active duty bases also. So when that soldier walks into that education center in Germany and talks to the counselor can tell them about what we have. So we can try to increase the pipeline in that way, as far as those who are currently serving. When it comes to veterans who are here now, we're very bullish on all the offerings available to vets, but especially the Veteran Tuition Award Program that the state offers. It's the state's version of a post 9/11 GI Bill. It's for veterans who have an honorable discharge and who have some combat service. We also push the Veteran Rapid Retraining Assistance Program, or VRAP. We love the VRAP program because this is one where if you've used or if you have assigned all of your post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, or all of your GI Bill benefits, if you don't have any to use and you're between jobs, this program will pay for you to have up to 12 months of vocational training where you are having the training paid for and you're receiving the housing allowance that ties to the post 9/11 GI Bill. So we're always promoting that one as far as VRAP, and we're promoting VTA. Information about all of this can be found at nyc.gov/vetstudents. It's nyc.gov/vetstudents. Another group that we are just starting to work with, and we'll be able to follow up with the board on how this is going. The #1 MEPS site in the country is in Fort Hamilton, New York City. We have more veterans or more service members enter the military through this region than any other place in America. We want to start to tie in with these folks as they're joining the military and making sure that they're aware of their educational opportunities that are local here to New York City. One way is tying in with the Army and its concurrent admissions program. We're looking at what makes sense with other services and how to best get in front of these young women and men who are just getting ready to join, so that they already are tracking New York City as a place to come back to for schooling and other things. So they don't just live here, grow up here, join the military, and then never come back and then always go away. So just to wrap it, for the areas we just spoke on tonight, the claims piece, nyc.gov/vet claims is a good place to start for those interested in VA claims and working with our agency to put it in. nyc.gov/vet claims. Employment piece, nyc.gov/vet jobs. Housing, nyc.gov/vet housing. And then for vets on campus and other veteran student initiatives, nyc.gov/vet students. You know where to reach us. I'll say it one more time just so people know, 212-416-5250. It is connect@veterans.nyc.gov. It's at NYC Veterans, and it is nyc.gov/vets. So that concludes our presentation. Happy to open it up to questions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you to your team and for that wealth of information that I'm sure that our veterans needed to hear. What we're going to do now, just a couple of points that I would like to make, and just so that we're reminded that a lot of the questions that you have pertaining to the VA is on a federal level, but we do have intergovernmental agencies and individuals that work with the VA that will gather your questions, and we will then make that information sent to them, and we will get back to you with those answers. Those of you who ask specific questions, drop in a contact information or an email so that once we get the answer to that question, we can get that question back to you. Some of you have, for the sake of time, some of you have emailed your questions. Thank you so much. And those questions will be reviewed and gotten back to you expeditiously, because some of your answers need answers for you to go on and live your everyday life with. So we will be sharing that with DVS. We will be sharing those questions with the VA. We will be sharing their question with various VAB board members, all right, who can handle that. So we want to get that to you. Also, we want to open it up now, but what we're going to do so that we can be in decency and in order, if you have a question that you would like a member of DVS or a member of Council Members Holden's team could answer, or one of the VAB board members may be able to assist as well, we ask that you raise your hand so that we'll be able to, our secretary, Ms. Elias, will then identify and acknowledge you. You raise your hand, and then we'll open the floor and you can ask your question. Please be mindful of the veteran that's waiting to ask a question as well. All right. So we want to keep your question, at least, a minute, 2 minutes, and then allow the answer to come. So we want to give each person approximately 3 minutes between the asking of a question and the delivery of the answer, if that's all right. So if y'all agree with that in the chat, just let me know if that's okay. And we're going to open it up, and we're going to make sure that everyone is going to hear their point, and we're going to ask that we be respectful in all that we do. Is that all right? Thank you so much for everyone again for being on the line. We appreciate you. We want to keep these numbers going. As I said earlier, we need everybody on this call. We want so many veterans on this call that it no longer turns into a Zoom, it becomes a webinar. And we're still answering the questions with everybody getting the stuff taken care of. All right. Thank you so much again. And Mercedes, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Yep. So the first one we'll go to is Kevin Meggett, please. You are muted, Kevin.
Mr. Meggett, you're on the mute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we're good now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for this platform. My name is Kevin Meggett. I am a program director at Black Veterans for Social Justice, and I head the HVRP, which is an acronym for Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program. So I've seen a few people with concerns about employment. reach out to me at BVSJ. We take care of all veterans, regardless of what your discharge is or your status as a vet is. We don't turn any veterans away. But back to my question. My question is, could New York City, or would New York City actually entertain erecting buildings specifically for veterans, where you either there are SROs or multiple, family type of apartments? You have the HUD VASH. So it's almost like what Ms. McClinton was saying about the government is intertwined. The HUD VASH could pay for the city property, which in return shelters the veteran. But the question again is, would the city of New York consider erecting buildings specifically for veterans and their families, the same way that they're doing for so-called affordable housing?
Kevin, thank you so much for that question. I will start it, and then if anybody on my team wants to finish it up, please jump in. When I'm thinking about the specifically for veterans piece, I'm thinking about project-based VASH is something that is available as far as working in concert with the federal government to help subsidize something that's being built. What you're saying is there something where we can see city dollars that go specifically to this? Is that right? I want to clear two things up, because you've got project-based VASH, which is something where that's a discussion where it's really in coordination with HUD and VA, particularly on the HUD side of it, as far as a project-based VASH. So setting something up where you use that subsidy to help get it built. But then there's a separate thing of, the city just putting money on the table specifically for veteran housing. I want to make sure I understand, are you talking about the latter as far as just the city going all in, or are you talking about project-based VASH?
Well, I think it could be either or. It could be mutual. It could be a mutual, it could be the city of New York in conjunction with the state, along with the feds. Or it could be just the city all in. We just need veteran housing specifically for veterans.
And what I can do on my end is, I know we have a new HPD commissioner, happy to kind of flag that for him as far as this point, just to put it on the table and get his feedback. And I can also say we've been waiting for the new regional administrator to be appointed for New York and New Jersey from HUD to have the project-based VASH discussion now that she has been appointed. And we all know she was someone who once was on the council, who once was on the Veterans Committee, who's a military spouse. We look forward to that conversation, because I feel like there are two different pieces. One is the HPD piece. We can put it on the table and say, hey, look, this is something that's coming up. What's possible? And we can ask that and get back to you, so what, and folks who are interested. The other piece is the project-based VASH element, which a lot of it comes back to it's the regional administrator who has a strong hand in that getting done. And we're hoping we can make some moves there now that Alika Ampry-Samuel is in that position. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next will be Melissa from Rep Velasquez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Hendon. And let me put my hand down. And I also want to say hi to Monique Porter from DAV. My question, I have a couple of questions. One is, I actually have a Vietnam veteran over at Gowanus Houses who's really desperate for services. So I'm gonna follow up with Dana separately. But also within NYCHA, I want to make a real heavy ask to ensure that our military families within NYCHA are recognized. So many of our youth there have signed up for the military, and a lot of families do not know their rights when with respect to having their loved one return back home and their rights to that unit. That's something that needs to happen as far as education is concerned. And lastly, there's a program called Single Stop, where anyone can go and qualify for services across the city. And likely most veterans will also qualify. My question is, do we know whether or not there's a question on that list that includes whether or not the applicant is actually a veteran so that they can access New York City Veteran Services as a resource like HRA.
Melissa, let's start from the last one and work up. For single
Sorry.
stops, I'm sorry, I know about, I know we're tracking Access HRA and we know what they've got, Access NYC. Single stop, is that a part of the city? Forgive me, just is that a city program or is that separate?
If I'm not mistaken, it's funded through the Robin Hood Foundation. A lot of nonprofit organizations utilize the resource. There is I can't remember the name of the program, but there is a program where anyone can utilize, sit down, go through the interview of questions, and then the system will populate every single program that they qualify for. My question is New York City Veteran Services on that list of resources?
I got to check because it's not directly city related. We can check and get back to you. And we can look into that program too. We'd love to talk with you more about it so we can see how we get in the mix there. As far as your question about the city agencies, there's an executive order that was passed last year, which asks that all city agencies that interact with constituents, anyone who's public facing, must ask some form of a veteran identifier question. Piece by piece, one by one, agencies have been starting to come in line and do this. We're going to see it in more effect, we believe, throughout 2022, as folks are just updating whatever paperwork and updating their systems, et cetera. But this does include, folks on the DSS side of the house, as far as Department of Social Services. And that executive order itself can be found on nyc.gov/vet reports. The bottom line is it's asking all the agencies to ask some sort of veteran identifier question and then communicate with DVS. So we're going to have a better handle on this, taking time, but this is very important to us because we recognize that point. Your point about NYCHA. So, I just spoke with Danny Barber last week about this, and we had meetings last year with Danny Barber as president for NYCHA's Council of Presidents Association. So you have tenant president for each NYCHA, residence or development, but those tenants fall under a region, and those regions are part of, there's a council-wide president, and there's basically the leadership of the tenant associations. We had a few meetings with him. Thank you for introducing us to him, by the way, Melissa. Had a few meetings with him last year. We talked about what we can do this year to try to get the wheels back on as far as having stronger outreach to veterans who are in NYCHA. We know through the president angle, folks have gotten our information, but it's really about what can we do from a bottom up way, not just top down. But we are actively speaking with NYCHA as far as the tenant leadership, just so you know that piece. And then for the other one, I know you'll follow up with Dana about the Vietnam veteran at Guana's houses. Is there anything else? Did I answer your questions?
You did answer my questions. Thank you. And thank you everyone for your service.
Can I answer a part of your question, Melissa?
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, this is Monique from DAV. I started an outreach program in the 5 boroughs. In Brooklyn, veterans were underrepresented by DAV. I got a few chapters together and we make home visits. That's something that we've never done before. So if you get that information to me, either we'll set something up at the community center, a library, or we'll make home visits. We make these appointments to make sure they're taken care of because they've removed many of our claims offices out of hospitals. So if the veteran goes to the VA hospital, they won't be able to get the proper help. And to answer your other question, Veteran Services is not on that application at One Stop.
Okay. Thank you. It's really, I mean, I don't have to tell you everybody here. It's really important. We push hard. So whatever the Congresswoman's office can do to be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Yeah. No, thanks, Melissa. And Monique, we'll follow up too, see what we can do to get on this thing as far as to be on part of One Stop, to just do our homework and try to get right with it. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. The next one will be Nadanea.
Hi, good evening. It's Nadina, but I got it. I just want to clarify that I am a veteran's daughter, the only daughter after he returned from Vietnam. He was sick with Agent Orange. He did receive his disability. However, from what I understand with him being at the VA hospital, most wives leave wartime, they're divorced or they don't stay married, and it falls on whatever if they had a child. And I was one of the one that got the cruel end of it. You know, I had to take care of my dad through it, through sicknesses that I didn't understand. There was no support at all, other than sending civilian nurses in. The support has been good at the VA hospital, it's been excellent, a long way from that. And I appreciate every one of you that's doing your part. But I think we need to push harder because we're losing vets and the kids are sick. I myself and my daughter's been tested for toxin of the Agent Orange. We've registered with spina bifida, and there's no help for the children. We are maxing out every insurance in the world and going in debt to take care of the veteran that's in crisis. And then we're here after trying to live normal. What kind of help is being considered for the families that's aged to 26, over 26? And in addition, what about the children that are sitting in foster care as a result? That's really, because it happened to me. I was in foster care because my dad was declared incompetent, and I had to sit there and suffer through 13 foster homes until I aged out. So I thank God that I survived. I thank God for all of you. Can't do anything about the past, but something needs to be implemented for the older ones that are in a situation regarding the health, number one. And then the second thing is about the children that are still in foster care from wartime people.
Nadina, I'll start with this. I have a feeling John's gonna jump in. I'm guessing John's gonna get a piece of John Rowan. I may, but I'll stay a little bit and pass it to anybody else. And I want to preface it with like what Chairman Clinton said. We're city, we're not federal. We're doing what we can to try to close these gaps. Something that we are trying to push within what we can touch on the city side is this issue of dependent indemnity compensation. In that something that John Rowan brought out a while ago, what happens if that veteran passes away and the medical examiner, whoever is actually filling out the death certificate, does not write anything to show that there was a connection between that veteran who died and them having been exposed to Agent Orange, things like that. What if that connection isn't accounted for on the death certificate? Then when the spouse comes up, or a dependent of that veteran comes to try to obtain some sort of benefit, they are denied it by the VA. And so right now we're working with the Department of Health and the VA as far as Harbor Health and their clinicians to make sure that we could put out an informational for the 4,000 to 5,000 people who actually fill out death certificates in this city, so that they know what questions to ask if a veteran passes. This all started with John saying, if a veteran passes and they just put COVID on the death certificate, but this person had some Agent Orange exposure and other things in Vietnam, then that DIC claim, that dependent indemnity compensation claim, is denied because nothing is on the certificate. So something within our area that we are working on is that piece, so that these loved ones, these dependents of these service members who pass, can be able to go and obtain money from the government, as far as just having something for this. That doesn't touch everything you said. I want to call it out, and I just want to just mention what we're trying to do in our area for this. And I don't know, John, if there's anything you want to add to this. And I got to personally take time to take this in. They did, and I'd love to follow up with you offline. But yeah,
Commissioner, it's Paul here. So good evening, everyone. First time to see you, new Deputy Commissioner, External Affairs at DVS. What I could just throw in there is it's even beyond DVS, right? So almost every city agency is looking at this. We're in that sandwich generation, taking care above and below, and it becomes a caregiver piece. And even in DFTA and housing and DVS, there is new effort now to fund and provide relief. I saw in the chat also Medicaid brought up. So I saw in the chat people talking about elder law planning. All of it becomes intermeshed. So we'll all leave our contact numbers there. But if you want to follow up with us, I'd love to help and try to guide you through what you may have been entitled to when your father was alive, what you may have been entitled to as a surviving descendant of your dad, and what type of programs are out there to now fund the caregiver sandwich generation that's taking care of above and below. So thank you for that question.
Paul, I just want to add that me and Amari will reach out to you, Nadine. We kind of operate the claims portion of our unit. We'd love to work with you, and as Paul said, collect that information to really assess everything think about our legislative agenda moving forward and how we can address whatever is missing. And thank you for your resiliency, you and your family. Really appreciate it. And thank you for coming here and telling us your story.
Hi, Nadina. This is Monique with DAV. I wanted to let you know that a lot of the presumptives have been etched in stone by the VA. So there are things, you mentioned spinal bifida and your health care. If we can make the connection between your dad's exposure and your spina bifida, you don't have to pay insurance any longer. We'll do the paperwork so you can get that done. I'm not sure if you guys know that. There's a lot of issues right now with veterans, being that they were stationed somewhere that was contaminated, or there was something that wasn't on the list and covered that is now on the list and covered. And as far as veterans' children go, their health care for children and spouses who were in that situation due to exposure by the parent, you guys can have your insurance will not even cover half of what you need. The VA will cover all of your medical expenses. If there's any monies owed to you, we can look at that. But just so you know, please tell everyone if a veteran passes away, if a veteran gets sick, they have to let us know, because we can't help you out there if we don't know. And that is DVS, that's DAV, that's the American Legion. If we don't know, we can't help. And on the, oh God, my PTSD just kicked in. I forgot what I was going to say. You had another question and I have an answer for, and I can't even think of what your question was. Other than that, can you maybe repeat what you just said? Because I'm trying, it just escaped me. Nadine.
Yes, I was regarding foster children, that they're sitting in the system because they're entitled, or not necessarily entitled, but there should have been some contributing factor. When the veterans come back and they're in wartime, they're in crisis. And there's, they go long term, and children's service coming, they don't ask questions, they just see what's going on and they pull them. And that veteran is not mentally competent enough to fight. Most of the time, they're self-medicating, unfortunately, to help deal with the trauma. My father, I know I had the issue where he was one of them that did not get decompressed. They literally took him and locked him up for several months and didn't even inform me. His mom died and I was stuck. So there's nothing there. They said that there's things there for families, but all I know is I was left on my own. And I called and I went to go to Washington and everywhere else. And once you are not under the age anymore and you've aged out, it's like, it was a tough place. I'm advocating for something I don't understand. I'm dealing with watching him deteriorate. And then I'm also with condition myself. I'm not saying that was anyone's responsibility. What I'm saying is that our part in ourselves, or you guys as a city level, to be more mindful about the foster kids that's in there. Put something in the system that say, if this is a foster child, where they're coming from, are they possibly a veteran dependent? Did they possibly get it? There's nothing out there to protect that child, nothing. And so we fall in like regular civilians, and our trauma is 50 times worse than a civilian child coming out of a trauma issue. As a child, you have to deal with if you pass by and they're in their sleep and they jump up and they grab you and start hitting you. And you have to talk to them and say, Daddy, it's me. It's not fair. It's beyond the heaviness, and everybody walks away. They're comfortable with it, but you have to stay, because in your heart, you know that you love this person, and in their heart, they love you. But they're fighting a sickness and they're slipping, and they don't know why either. It needs to be some assistance for wartime other than the standard protocol, and a more aggressive approach as a city, the population. And I think when everyone stops failing the past veterans, you'll see more incline with children actually signing up. I don't want somebody's son to go sign up in the military. I don't, because I watched firsthand what happened. And although we're fighting for freedom, my dad said he would do it again. What freedom? We're fighting for freedom and then being placed in bondage by our own country with our sickness. Not even help for nothing. So my question was about the foster care, another part of it, and advocating for them to implement something in the city. It's a wide potential. I know several children that's been sitting in foster care and just aged out, and their parents were veterans.
Thank you, Nadina. Thank you so much for that. It was something that was needed. It was something that needed to be heard. And it even gives us another look at how we need to care for and set up those supports for our military families. And this is a conversation that needs to be moved. I'm quite sure Councilmember Holden, who is the chair, is listening. We also, again, as I said, the commissioner and his team is listening. You also have social service providers that are on this call. I'm going to ask that if there are social service providers on the call, especially those that deal with mental health, please put your link, put your information in the chat so that the veterans that are on the call know where they can get support. DVS is one entity that works with the city. We have various agencies within the 5 boroughs that deal specifically with foster care, that they can work and assist. We need to know where these veterans are. We'll also, again, I'm repeating that we are making these linkages to link these other city agencies to DVS, to the Veterans Advisory Board, to other information, a network, so that we won't have situations like this one and so many others just fall into the crack and be left, and you should not be alone. So again, providers, please, please list your information in the chat so that the veterans can have it for assistance. All right. And Nadina, we will be getting back to you. I know members from the VAB, and I know I will. So if there's a phone number that we can contact you at, I see that Ms. Porter has left her number, and I see some others have left their numbers in the chat as well, so that we can make sure that your situation is not one that is just heard, but it's a situation that we're trying to move and take care of. Also, I want to say that these informations and all of your questions, they are welcome. No question is a bad one. We need to hear those things that plague the veteran community so we can make New York City veteran friendly. That's the goal. And so we want to make sure we get these things answered. We may not be able to answer it overnight, but we will make sure that we get some answers so that we can take care of our nation's heroes and then those individuals, the caretakers and the caregivers that take care of them as well. So, okay. So thank you so much again for everyone being with us tonight. This has been an excellent meeting. It continues to be. Again, don't let it be your last time here. All right. Before we move on to any more questions, Mercedes, I would like to introduce and the council member Palladino is here, who sits on the Veterans Committee for the New York City Council, and I would like to give her an opportunity to have words, and then we'll move back on in our meeting. Council member, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late coming. I had Michaela sit on from the beginning. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Vicky Palladino, councilwoman from District 19. That's Northeastern Queens. I am proud as can be to be on the Veterans Committee. It was one of my top choices. I look forward to working with this committee and with our committee at City Hall and coming together to save the lives of the people who put their lives on the line for us. My office is located at 1520 Francis Lewis Boulevard. That's in Whitestone, Queens. My door is always open. I believe Michaela dropped our information in the box earlier when she came on. So thank you to Michaela for that. And once again, I am a child of the I grew up with the Vietnam War being on the news every single night, and I was one of the few of my age group when I was a freshman and sophomore in high school that actually would never protest against the war ever. And one of the reasons why I would never do that is because I thought so highly of who was there fighting for us. And it outraged me to a point of till I was 17 years old. I started very young, and it stuck with me forever. It was one of my main reasons for becoming an activist, because the way people were turning their backs on the Vietnam vets, it stuck with me. And I'm proud as can be to be here and be of service to each and every one of you. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here, council member. We also would like, and everyone, for our elected officials, if you could be so kind, council member, and you're on the committee, to encourage the other elected officials, the other council members to be a part, because veterans are the fiber of their districts. And they really need to know and hear those things that are taking place with one of the greater constituents that's in their boroughs. So if you can encourage them to be on our public sessions, encourage them to come in here and give words and remarks, we would really
absolutely. And
I know the veterans would as well.
What's great is Paul and I are neighbors, literally neighbors in Whitestone. So that's
Our office is down the block from my house.
There you go. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good to see you, Vicky.
So, thank you, Paul. So I welcome this opportunity, and thank you very much, Paul, for encouraging me to introduce myself. But I'm glad Wendy did it for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You put yourself on mute, Wendy. I think you're asking me though for the next set of questions.
Yes, I got the button fever.
Yep. So Stephen Merced.
Okay. Hello. It's actually not a question, but a suggestion. And perhaps the Vet Connect Commissioner James Hendren, I know that his office coordinates with other agencies, and perhaps he could help coordinate this suggestion for employment for vets. Many veterans would like to make would like to earn a decent living, and they like to be self-starters, entrepreneurs. And currently, and as a vet yourself, Elias, Mercedes, you are a great driver. Many vets, perhaps all veterans, are great drivers. And many of them would like to drive cabs for Lyft, Uber. But currently the TLC is not issuing out any new TLC plates. Perhaps a suggestion could be made that an exemption could be made to those who have a TLC license and are veterans. That would allow veterans to obtain the TLC license plate and make a living on their own as entrepreneurs. And it would not require any, I did some checking and some research. It would not require any type of new law by the city council or the state assembly or the state senate, but actually it would just be a policy change made by the commissioner of the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission. Last year, the DCAS commissioner made a policy change, as everyone here is aware. Veterans are no longer required to pay the examination fee for New York City exams. And that did not require a change in any law. It was just a policy change made by the commissioner. So something like this will not require a change in the law. Many veterans get frustrated because everybody says a bill has to be introduced, then it has to be law, then the governor or the mayor has to sign it, and everybody just gets, this is just will be a policy change made by the TLC commissioner. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Did you make this suggestion before? Because we took this. Somebody said this at one of the last meetings and it got to us and we've already pushed this up. Was that you?
That was me.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
I'll let you know what happens with it. On my end, the two different ways I got to handle it. One is to talk to my counterpart. It's Aloysi, I forget her last name, who's the TLC commissioner, to check in with her to talk about what can be done. The other one, which we did after you brought this up before, we sent it up our own food chain as far as from the last administration before, and we've sent it up to this new administration saying, hey, this is something we want to have looked at as far as an opportunity for our veterans. But we will circle back on it. I haven't yet spoken to TLC commissioner on it, but I just want to make sure you know that we are tracking it. This was brought up and that we're trying to kind of move this thing forward. The way it was presented, because I wasn't in the room when this was said before, it was to right now, it's to make it so that a veteran has a combustion engine vehicle that they can still get that Lyft or Uber opportunity, basically. Because right now, the law is that you have to have electronic, or it has to be handicap accessible only, whereas we're saying we want to have a carve out if it's a veteran, kind of like we do with our street vendors and certain provisions they have. So this is a way that was pushed up the food chain. I need to talk to my counterpart as far as the adjacent piece too. But thank you so much for this.
No, I understand the whole thing when it comes to electric vehicles and such. It's just that these electric vehicles and the handicap vehicles, they're very expensive. They're very expensive. And so right now, many veterans have their own vehicles, and just obtaining the plates will go a long way. Also, because there is an opportunity for anyone who has a TLC license to actually rent or lease some of these vehicles, but to lease them or to rent them actually cost about $500-600 a week. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mercedes.
$700 a week.
Yes.
The next one was actually written in the chat earlier from Marlene Molly Levi, and it said, what are the current stats on veteran suicide, and what role does DVS play in helping to prevent suicide?
Yes, thank you for that. I was going to pose that to James Hendon. Hi, James.
Hey, Molly. We've got to get whatever new information we get as far as here specific to New York City. And, this information that we've got to get from between the medical examiner's office and the Department of Health, so we can have updated information on this. So I'm sorry I don't have new numbers right now. I know that something we mentioned at a council hearing before was we'd had data that covered 2013 to 2018 in this area. And 2013, 2018, it was somewhere between, on any given year, it was 0.3 to 0.8%. As far as of our veterans who had died by suicide. The number that I know offhand nationally is about 1.5% of all Americans. The veteran rate is higher than that, somewhere between 2 to 2.5% as far as the veteran rate nationally. But we know for the city, it was 0.3 to 0.8 based on what we gotten, but that was for that period of time. We haven't gotten a dump yet with new information from these groups. We have agreements in place to get this though, so we got to work to follow up with them so we can get this kind of information back. But just understand where we stand compared to, just to give that to you, Molly, for now, where we are on this.
You have a.
And then one other one too, just for the good of the group, the number it's lower in New York City. We working with our friends at the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, SAMHSA, we believe it's lower here because we have these lethal means safety measures in place here. In other words, it's not as easy to get hands on a gun, et cetera. We're trying to get down to zero with all these things, frankly, anything. We're trying to do whatever we can to just make this thing completely zero, not 0.3, 0.8. But that's why when you look at the number for us versus the national number for all civilians versus the national number for veterans, why there's, we're very low as far as the suicide rate of New York City veterans.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Another question that was posted by Lisa Millsaps Mohammed Graham is, are there any services for Meals on Wheels? And is there a type of Meals on Wheels for veterans with dementia?
I'll start with this. We've got, I can't speak directly to Meals on Wheels as a program. I know nyc.gov/vet food is where we make available anything that is in the food space for veterans who have needs. So for us, it's enrolling folks and Get Food NYC. We also have the program that Black Vets for Social Justice plays an extremely important part in with, meal kits that are put out each week to the veteran community that are Hello Fresh meal kits. But as far as something that's specifically Meals on Wheels, it's not something we have a handle on. I know that any information we can find, we put on nyc.gov/vet food for any veteran who has food insecurity. We also partner with our friends at the Department of Probation and their Nutrition Kitchen effort, where they have, food available to veterans who have that need at the different DOP sites in each borough. I hope that answers the question. Please let me know if you need more clarity, if anyone wants to jump in on this one.
And Commissioner Tifter, the Department for the Aging has a Meals on Wheels direct service, especially for any family member who has special needs or dementia or any elder or elder care specific requests. So they can provide directly to the house, either through the local senior center or directly from DIFTA. So that could piggyback from what DVS is already providing.
And Lisa did write that, yes, it does answer her question. The next one, there is a hand up. There's not a name associated. It only shows that you're calling from a Galaxy phone. So if you put your hand up, you can speak now. If not, they may not have recognized that. Monique, you've been having a lot of really great feedback, but you did put in the chat earlier that you have a question.
Yes, I do. I do have a question. I know that DVS has training for your claims specialists. I'm not sure what you call them, the DAV, we call them claims officers. We are trained and certified every year, and we have monthly training. So I'm not sure what your training consists of, but I would really like to know, since Black Vets is here, what training do you guys go through at Black Vets to do claims? I'm only asking because I know of several veterans that have gone to you. Did Black Vets leave? No?
Black Veterans High.
Okay, so DVS, the training, how long is the training? Or you guys have to receive training? Hi, okay. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Most of through our HVRP program, all of our HVRP program counselors were certified through New York State Department of Veterans Services to process claims. That's where we took our classes. That's where they were certified, and they were certified through them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you know what? And I don't, for anyone, it's so many veterans that need assistance with claims. You know, they need upgrades. They need, what do you call them? Upgrades. They also need claims that take you from dishonorable to honorable to other than honorable. It's various levels of claims. It's not just dealing with the injured body. It's so many individual veterans that there's enough room for everybody. We need everybody to work as a team where no one is a one-man shop. We have case managers that do claims. You're doing claims. John Rowan's department, and he's still on the call. They're doing claims. We have to be able to connect and unify as one body. If you got to overflow, call somebody else. You know, if you have something that let us call somebody. Let's talk and work it out so that we make sure every veteran claim is processed. We don't want the incident that happened through the pandemic, you know, where we just got lost in the cracks. You know what I'm saying? So we all just gonna work together. And I'm hopefully through DVS, through your agency, through John, and then also the leadership of Black Vet, they can make that happen throughout, you know, New York City. So we can make sure every claim is processed on time. And because the veterans, like they said, they need resources. So this is one way that we can get those resources in the hands. And then even for the young lady, I'm still thinking about Nadine, how she can get her claim processed, you know, so that she'll be able to better serve her family as well.
Wendy, I just want to jump in and just to underscore what you said, in that the numbers, just looking at census data, 25.6% of all veterans in this country has a service-connected disability rating. So they have a claim put in. 25.6% of all veterans in the country. In New York City, that number is 14.9%. And so it's all hands on deck here, because we believe that we have many people, many men and women, if they went to Black Vets for Social Justice, they went to you at DAV, if they went to Vietnam Veterans of America, if they go to DVS, that they could likely go get a judgment rendered and have that disability rating. And so we're doing everything we can to get right on this issue, and it's all hands on deck. I just want to emphasize that, what she was saying. Yeah.
No, I get that. I didn't know they did claims. I've referred many veterans to Black Vets, but I didn't know they did claims. But I want to make sure that there's training, because it's like peeling an onion sometimes to get the information to put the claim in. So I was just making sure that everybody's on the same to this. That's why I asked the question.
Monique, I just want to also add to that, and I think Wendy's idea was great. Maybe as DVS, we can start collaborating the organizations in New York City that are offering claims and triaging the veteran population together. It's very much similar to what happened when we housed homeless veterans and dropped that number so significantly. There was just a large number of stakeholders coming together to share their information around what veterans is being served by who and what, how we can continue to move them forward. So Wendy, I love that idea. I'm sure Commissioner Hendon and the rest of us here would love to collaborate with your organization and everyone else that's doing these claims so that we can get this out to everybody. So thank you, Monique, for bringing that question up as well.
Jason, if I could jump in as well here. So I can speak confidently that Ben Pomerantz from New York State Division of Veteran Services is very active with sending out different trainings. I feel like there's a training probably every 2 weeks. They just did one on the effects of the burn pit. There was one about financial fraud, specifically for senior veterans. So if anyone is not getting those emails from Ben Pomerantz, please let us know, and we can put you on that mailing list. And it's just, he has representatives from both the state and from other organizations who are subject matter experts. And it's really, as Monique mentioned, things constantly change with the VA. New conditions come up and so forth. So it's really important to stay up to date with these things. So please, again, let us know if you want to get on that mailing list, and we can connect you to those up-to-date trainings.
Next is Cheryl Dupree.
Hey, Mercedes, you mind if it's Todd Haskins
Sure.
here? Do you mind
Sure,
if I jump in?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Todd Haskins, one of the board members. I want to reinforce something that was said just before. And this is frankly something that we've asked DVS to try to find a way to highlight and create more visibility around. When New York City started its quest to end veteran homelessness, there were over 4,000 homeless veterans in New York City. At the same time, the second largest city in America, Los Angeles, had the exact same number of homeless veterans. When I last checked, Los Angeles had 4,000 homeless veterans, the same number. And so it's absolutely remarkable what New York City has done. And it's the fight's not done. There still are homeless veterans, but it is remarkable what it's done. And bringing the whole community together and all the constituencies together is the secret sauce of that. And we need to make sure that message gets out. And I know there was one of the city council members was here, or hopefully is still on the line. I cannot express enough the return on investment that New York City gets on their investments in the Department of Veteran Services. Not everything's perfect. There's things that can be improved, but if you look at the return, $600 million of federal money just from the GI Bill. I don't even know the money on the 14% of the veterans that have disability here in New York City, from federal disability. We need to invest in these programs. These programs pay for themselves. The city council, which has no veterans on it, last I checked, has to wake up and make investments here. There's a real opportunity. It will pay for itself. It will pay for itself. It will pay for itself. I want to reinforce that. And there's an incredibly powerful convening authority that the DVS has, and convening responsibility, not just authority, but convening responsibility. We took 3,500 homeless veterans off the street, assuming there's 500 left. The amount of money that took, that made New York City not have to pay, because the vast majority of that money was paid for by federal dollars. We need more investment in DVS. It pays for itself multiple times over. Sorry, just a little soapbox here.
John, if you wanted to add on that specifically, because I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I'd like to add a quickie on that too. Years ago, we used to have a counselor in every borough to help people do claims. And that went by the wayside many, many years ago, unfortunately. And I know that the new commissioner and the new agencies tried to make a comeback, and 3 people is better than nobody. But the truth of the matter is we need a lot more of that. Todd's right. The amount of money that we could be bringing in, if you took that amount of money that the 14% makes and doubled it to 28%, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, the average person, I'm 100% disabled I've been for several years, unfortunately. And it's over $3,000 a month, tax-free. Plus, it sets me up for other kinds of things. I get benefits on my house and my real estate taxes. I mean, the benefits that accrue to people are just phenomenal. And I'm not going to Florida, so those of us who stay here in the city of New York spend that money right here, so that the amount of money a good counselor brings in every year is phenomenal. Many multiple times their salary. Many multiple times their salary. Never mind that the person, the veteran, and their family are in a better condition because of it, because of the work these folks do. And I did that work when I first retired in the city of New York back in the 2002 to 5 period. And it's hard work. It's very confusing, very bureaucratic, but there's been a lot of improvements made, not the least of which is what they call presumptive illnesses. If you step foot in Vietnam, there's a long laundry list of illnesses. If you get any of those diseases, you're automatic. There's no discussion. You file the claim and you're done. And that's pretty rare. And now that the Secretary for the post 9/11 vets just gave presumptive disability on 3 respiratory illnesses. I mean, I was shocked when he did that. I mean, nobody was even fighting for it. I mean, they were kind of talking about it, but he just went ahead and did it. And so anybody at all since post 9/11 was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you come up with a respiratory ailment, you're in. There's no discussion. You file a claim, they check you out, and if you got it, you're collecting a check. And if you're married and you have children or whatever, you're going to get even more money. And God forbid you die of the darn thing, and you have dependents, a spouse or dependent children. I have a friend of mine who's his son is no kid anymore. He's almost 40, but he has Down syndrome and therefore is a dependent. And you could even get dependent money for a dependent parent. Think about that. And nobody knows about that one. So I really encourage our city council members as we go into the budget process to please go ahead and get something done right away to increase that budget to get them more counselors. Thanks.
Great, and
We
Cheryl.
lost $100 million of federal money from the GI Bill, from taking the GI Bill, the members in school from the GI Bill from 12,000 down to 10,000. $100 million a year. So we've got, and that's more than the average reduction in GI Bill usage across the nation. So a very small investment will be recouped multiples over. I think the last I checked, the entire budget for the entire DVS was like $5 or $7 million. This is pennies. This is peanuts.
On that note, before we get to the next question, I did speak to somebody at NYU, one of the counselors, because now that everybody needs to be retrained or what have you, there's a portion of veterans who didn't have the GI Bill when they joined. They joined under VEEP. And that was a terrible program, so they don't get those college benefits. Does anyone know of anything other than TAP and Pell that'll help those veterans get retrained if they're not service connected?
Monique, that's why I push people to VRAP right now. That Veteran Rapid Retraining Assistance Program. The link to it is on nyc.gov/vet-students. This is a program where the thing with it, though, right now, it was signed in the stimulus that was passed last March. So it's part of that package, type of COVID economic assistance, meaning that it's got until December 11th, 2022. That's the deadline for someone to apply to really take advantage of that. Absent that, there's another program called Vet Tech, which is available also. Vet Tech has less money put into it, so they've, historically will exhaust resources. But for now, it's VRAP, Veteran Rapid Retraining Assistance Program, and Vet Tech. That's for people who have exhausted all other benefits as veterans and who are currently not employed. They will pay for your vocational training and give you the housing allowance too. And separate from all this, I know we're working with the American Legion to try to get them to extend the amount of time that VRAP is even available beyond December 11th this year. But that's something for the folks who fit what you're talking about.
Okay, Cheryl. Cheryl, we see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Is Cheryl the Galaxy S25?
Yes. Yep.
Let me see if I could put it.
She's not connecting. Wendy, those are the questions that I had. If there's anybody else that has any additional questions that you either want to put into the chat or raise your hands, we'll ask for just one last round.
Are there any more questions? Cheryl, if you can
Yes,
hear.
this is
Yes. Hold on one
Yes,
second.
this is,
Hold on one thing,
Michael.
sir. So give me 1 second. The young lady, she's saying, I'm trying to raise my hand. Okay. All right. Go ahead, sir. Ask your question, and I'm going to work with the other young lady.
That'd be great. I would like to thank the commissioner. I would like to thank the council members that are on board, Vallone and Palladino. I had spoken to Council Member Matteo while he was in office, Senator Lanza, and I've ran it for 40 years, and I'm retired now. So I'll get to my point, is that the veterans that live in New York City do not get the opportunity to claim any type of tax exemptions unless they were in wartime. So I would have to leave New York City and go anywhere else in New York State, and I would be able to get a tax exemption for a Cold War veterans tax exemption. So that went for many years, that Cold War. I missed the Vietnam War by 2 weeks, and I'm thankful for that, but I'm thankful for all the veterans that are out there that kept us free and put their lives on the line. So I believe that Councilman Vallone might have brought up some different subjects in the past on a COLA for city workers that was done in the year 2000, and they based it on a small amount of money, $18,000. So I would like to see if the Veterans Commissioner could look into trying to keep the veterans that are in New York City to stay here rather than run. I think Mr. Roman mentioned about he didn't want to go to Florida. I want to stay here in New York City, and being on a fixed income, I'd like to see if they could work on a COLA for the veterans. And the main thing is that just because you weren't in a war, I did 4 years on an aircraft carrier, and it could have broke out at any time. And I wouldn't have run for that. I signed up for it. And the thing is that we need for the council members to get together and put it on the calendar, which it still has not been. I don't know if the speaker, Corey Johnson, is still there, but we need to get that on the calendar so that we could have New York City opt in to the Cold War veterans tax exemptions. So I'd like to hear maybe what Council Member Vallone might have to say, or Councilwoman Palladino, on that subject. And I thank you very much, everyone, for letting me speak today.
Hey, Michael, thanks for making me a council member again. I appreciate it. We did have Vallones in there
Yes,
for almost
sir.
50 years. So you actually remembered when my dad the first speaker, Peter Valone, fought for that COLA way back in
Oh.
2000. Can you hear me, Michael?
Okay. Yes, but I was there, like I said, 40 years. So I'm very thankful for the year 2000 when they did give a COLA.
Exactly.
And Mr. Bone, you do realize that it sounds like very good that it's 1% to 3%. That's the range. But you're talking $180 a year, $360 or $540. Granted, it's better than nothing.
It's better than
thing is
nothing.
that
But you brought up the key point, Michael,
yeah,
on
it
how
could be reintroduced, but veterans, the tax exemption, a veteran is a veteran. And Cuomo did that when he allowed us to buy back our time. So it took him 3 times. He rejected it twice, but I'll keep quiet. And that Cold War veterans tax exemption should be for all veterans in New York City so we could stay here and live.
I'll just let you know the commissioner is fighting on the Albany level to add that property tax exemption and additional exemptions for the veterans that are not included. So I'm glad you brought that up. And it brings up the cooperation and coordination between state and city. So much of that has to be worked out within Albany, and some of that can be worked out like the COLA on the city level. Let's hope, there's a new speaker, there's a new mayor, new administration, a lot of folks just getting their feet wet on what positions they're going to be in. It's a great time for our commissioner and DVS and all of us and the council members that are on. And now we have Chair Holden now on chair of the committee for vets. We're going to have our first hearing coming up soon. It's a great time to address and bring back the issues of veterans through New York City and on the mayor. And the mayor certainly seems to be talking very highly about making great strides in that area. So it can only be good, and we will be advocating both on the city and the state level to get those exemptions. Nice to talk
Let
to
me
you.
just let me just add in as well. During my time at the city council, it was our understanding that the state had passed the bill for Cold War property tax exemption. The city had to buy in on it. And at one point we were having discussions with the finance committee at the council, to ask the Department of Finance to take a look and see how many World War II veterans, Korean War veterans, et cetera, are actually using the property tax exemption. Because right now, you're right, there is a gap between 1975 and 1991. So, I mean, that is something
That's right.
I think Veterans Committee can take up with the Finance Committee and have a conversation on how to move that ball. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it done with Councilman Drum. I know they had talked about the expenses to it, but again, my answer to that was, you don't even know how many veterans, or that you haven't told us how many veterans are actually using the property tax exemption right now. And we're excluding the main bulk of veterans who actually own a home and are living in the city right now. So we got to keep plugging at it.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right that it was already passed, and all it would be was for the council members to have that meeting and to opt in. New York City needs to opt in to say to all the Cold War veterans that we're not just thanking you for your service with our words. We are going to be take some action, and it's not, and it won't even be a lot of a tax exemption that we're talking about. It's minimal, but the thing is, like the COLA, it's minimal. It does help people on a fixed income stay within the New York City limits. So I think it's a little discriminatory that that everyone else could get it in New York State and for us not to. So listen, this is, compared to the disabled veterans that are out there and the homeless that you're helping, this is nothing by comparison. I would never, I'd rather give those 500 people a home than worry about me saving a few dollars on taxes. But I just felt it was very important to bring up.
Thank you. Mercedes, before we go on to the next question, can we try to please cue in a young lady. It's the Galaxy.
No, she's not on mute. She's just not connected to her audio. And then like she just
Not
needs to
connected?
sign off and sign on. No, yeah. It's not
Okay.
working.
All right.
Mr. Cooper?
Hey, yes, is someone going to speak? Go ahead. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It's been very interesting listening to everyone here. Can everyone hear me? Just raise your hand if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. So my story isn't that unique. I come from a generation of my father was a Vietnam veteran. He graduated from a segregated high school in North Carolina. My grandparents were sharecroppers, and all the boys joined the military, went to Vietnam, and the girls and who didn't join came to New York as refugees because they didn't want to live that lifestyle anymore in the South. I joined the military. I served, and I came back to New York, and I've been successful. I went to college in the South, historically black college. My biggest difficulty is being semi-successful, in my career. I still work, I still serve the government right now. But the biggest thing for me is I can't afford a decent place to live, and it's like, if I do invest my money into these rental properties, then I'm financially disenfranchising my children from having a decent education or even having money to go play on a ball team or whatever the case may be, because I'm not homeless. I'm not a homeless veteran, and I do have some stuff, but I just need help getting some decent housing so that I can, kind of pass something on to the future generation, and I don't want to take anything away from, homeless veterans or people who have these, whatever problems they may have, but my biggest problem is housing disenfranchisement. I'm a native New Yorker. I went to elementary school here. When I wasn't on a military base with my dad overseas, I always came back to New York, and I went to high school here, and I went on to join the military from here. And so if there's anyone that knows how to help me with housing, I did apply for Mitchell Lama. I almost got one, and then when I went to do my interview, I got a promotion, and they were like, "Oh, you make $1,000 too much." So in the meantime, I wasn't able to bring my family here. And, I'm now since divorced, right? Because if you don't have stable housing for your family, what can you do? But if there's anyone that knows anything about that, I would be helpful. I've applied to Mitchell Lama. I've applied to all these things, and it's like, I'm just waiting to get my number called so that I can get the veterans preference once I win a lottery or something. And I'll leave it there. And thank you everyone for everything that's been said. Brilliant ideas.
Stephen, do you have something for that?
Yeah, I'll respond. I'll start. If anybody on DBS wants to pick it up, let me know. What's your first name, first off?
Jason.
Jason, I'm James. Jason, thanks for your service, man. Thank you for just saying these things right now. We've got people on the staff who, are housing navigators who can help you navigate through things as far as, Housing Connect, Mitchell Lama Connect. Separate from that, something that we've been doing, which is why you should also just stay in touch with us. Everybody else should be aware of this too. We are actively monitoring the prices of the 421As in this city. In other words, when someone has a 421A building that's coming up, we have, one of our VA work study interns just looks to see, all right, I see what the price point is for them if they're going to be on, say, a Housing Connect. What is their market price for everything that's not on Housing Connect? And then what 421As are Goldilocks situations where the market price is right now equal to and sometimes less than the price that will be on Housing Connect. We're trying our best to get a handle on this stuff so that when we come across someone like you, we can say, hey, look, here's what you got to do to get through Mitchell Lama Connect. Here's what you got to do to get through Housing Connect. And oh, by the way, we had an intern who just looked like crazy. And here are buildings that have units where if you just applied outside of those processes, you could see something at a good price that's equal to, if not less than sometimes, that price that's through, the connects. The issue with it, though, is you may not have that same stabilization rent-wise. And they bring you in under this number, and then when it's time to renew the lease, things change. But just to be open with you, say, hey, look, these are spots though, where right now, this price point is something that's very much within what you would have gotten at this time had you gone through the lottery situation. Does that make sense, Jason?
It makes total sense. So I actually did go to 1199 on 108th Street, and I was supposed to get into that particular building. They said that I could not get in the building because my daughter and my wife at the time were living in Florida, because I have to live for them. And I said, listen, they're coming here with me. They said, well, because they don't live here, you can't get in. I said, that doesn't seem accurate to me, because if you're federally funded, that means you can apply for this program from wherever you are in the United States. But
and I want to make sure we're talking about two different things here. When you think about a building, at least, and I'm just thinking of 421A because it's something where these are buildings that have situations where maybe 20 to 40% of the building may be through different programs where they have covenants to say, okay, well, look, these units in our building have to go through like a Housing Connect or Mitchell Lama Connect, but the rest of the building is open season. The rest of the building has no covenants restricting who we can bring in and whatnot. What we're trying to do is find buildings that have, for that other group, for that 60 or so percent that is market, to find things that are market that are still with an affordable price point. That's what we've been trying to do behind the scenes for someone in your situation. So you don't have to worry about someone saying, you know, no, I can't let you in because of these different things. This is completely the market rate stuff that we want to make sure you know about. Does that make sense?
All right, I understand. I apologize. Thank you.
No worries. No, please reach out to us. Reach out. This is what we do. So, we're happy to help you here to try to work something out. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if I can say, and what we're also individuals and agencies need to do is to see that if within the housing, being, a developer, meet with these developers that are building these new city housings, and then make sure that they make some of those units veteran available. We can bargain, we can negotiate, they can make them affordable. We can make some of the units specifically for veterans. And if we can see if we can work that way so that we can get housing and use their vouchers to move in these buildings that are coming up into our city.
I take the point, Wendy. What we were doing so far on this was focusing on Empire State Supportive Housing Initiative, ESHOP, focusing on, because the state will put in the covenant when it finances through ESHOP that this must be a veteran unit. And so we were talking to developers on this side, and we spoke with the ESHI working group, and we wound up putting up letters of support for those developers who were applying to receive funding through ESHI, who said, look, we're going to build veteran units if we win it. We had 2 different developers win last year who had committed to do veteran units, came up to 150 units that we're committed to. So we're trying to work it for that angle, but that's just supportive housing. So I take your point about how there's so many different levels of this game, because it's not just supportive, it's also affordable housing. There's a lot going on this, but I appreciate it.
And also moving into home ownership. You have veteran other agencies that move it. We have to develop this housing ladder, where a veteran like myself started out homeless in a shelter, moved into transitional housing, then moved into affordable housing that we could use and utilize based on my income. Then once I began to move and grow and develop, now home ownership. This should be the trend. This should be the movement. No veteran should be subject just to a housing voucher that only deals with himself. And then you have to figure out how you're going to pay the rest so that you can substantiate and cover your family. So we have to look at some of those things across the board with all of our developers, because at the end, every veteran should own a home in the country that they served and fought for.
Wendy, your wisdom permeates in that. After talking to Martin Krongold from your team, it inspired me and us to start looking into these things. On nyc.gov/vet housing is a ladder. We call it the housing ladder. You can go to nyc.gov/vet ladder, which takes you directly there. As far as wherever you are in your journey, housing wise, you can see different opportunities for you as you matriculate up it. So separate from nyc.gov/vet housing, on that page also is the housing ladder. You can go directly to nyc.gov/vet ladder to see what you're talking about. So what you're saying with home ownership, I'm with you completely. And a lot of people, know that I'm very focused on trying to get co-ops added to the VA home loan program. That's a federal thing with city. but we're doing everything we can to try to push folks on the federal side to see if we can get co-ops added back to the VA home loan program. Also, I know that it's been made more permissive for a veteran to own a condo using the VA home loan program. A lot of barriers to that, those barriers have been removed. And so once again, just reach out to us for these things. Like we punch at different levels on this for housing. It's not just on our homeless veterans, but also to ownership and everything in between. So yeah.
Commissioner, can I also add to that comment and all of our effort to connect veterans to home ownership? I'm going to mention something that's not a popular topic to talk about, but bankruptcy should be discussed when it comes to financial empowerment and home ownership, because veterans do qualify for their VA home loan 2 years post a bankruptcy versus non-veterans who would have to wait that 7-year period. I know that's a last means resort, but it's something that folks should consider, and that the timeline is not as gruesome to kind of get yourself back on your feet. And we all know how difficult it is to thrive in New York City. And sometimes you don't make the best decision over and over, and the years go by and you find yourself in a hole. So I think folks should strongly consider exploring and coming to our office to learn more about that resource and ways to continue to create more discretionary income for yourself and put yourself on a path to that home ownership opportunity.
Thanks. The next one is Kathy Dean.
Yes, hi. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity for me to share with my fellow veteran brothers and sisters. I love New York. I want to stay here. I live in Rochdale Village, a state Mitchell Lama co-op. I don't want to purchase a home and go to Texas. I don't want to purchase a home, a $200,000 home and go to Florida. I want to stay here. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy, for saying that. Yeah.
Doug Williams.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to touch on what Michael was talking about as far as the Cold War veterans and the real property tax. Community boards in Brooklyn have been talking about this for over a year now. And it was brought up to the borough board meetings. And just so you know that it was unanimously voted on by last year by the council members and the borough board to move forward with the real property tax situation. We're also trying to move it to the other boroughs and get the community boards involved in it. And hopefully we can get this resolved very quickly. I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Doug, what community board are you again? Because I think I saw what you all passed. What community board are you again?
Community Board 3.
Yeah, we saw that. Thank you so much.
And it was also created by Community Board 16 in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I got a forward of what you all had passed, and that was what really first put it on our radar, this issue about our Cold War veterans and the property tax exemption.
Yeah.
Everything that Michael was just talking about too. So thank you about that. That they first hit us through seeing your document. It made the rounds, just so you know.
Okay.
I'd like to jump in on Doug. One of the things we've been talking about is getting more veterans on the community boards. They're almost out of time for filing an application. I know in Queens it's coming up soon. The deadline for filing to be a community board member. I would encourage you to, we're trying to talk to all the community boards to get a veterans committee on the community boards. A lot of people don't even know what they do, but they can be a very powerful organization inside the community, and they're usually made up of all the different civic association leaders so that they can help us get support. If anybody understands anything, the demographics amongst veterans is not good. We're going to fade away, literally. You know, the old thing was old soldiers never die, they just fade away. Well, we're fading quickly. The World War II vets and the Korean vets are almost gone. The Vietnam vets are all in their 70s. Even the kids from post 9/11, because it's been around for 20 years, many of them are in their 40s now. The early ones that went in 2002 or 3 or whatever it was, no kids anymore. One of my cousins was one of the first Marines into Baghdad, and he's been an FBI agent for several years now, and was telling me between his military time and his FBI time, I think a few more years, he can be eligible to retire. I don't understand how it works at 50 something, but what the hell. So please, if you got an inkling and you're willing to go to a meeting once a month, go join your community board. They need veterans on these community boards so they can understand what our issues are.
John, with
John,
that, Susan did ask how to sign up to be on the community board. So Chad or James, if you want to chime in, since you both sit on a community board, one in Brooklyn, one in the Bronx.
Yeah, go right to the borough president's office. They appoint them.
Well, yeah, John, it's a good conversation because half of the community board members are appointed by the council member of that district. Half are appointed by the borough president, the final approval to the borough president. So like in Queens, you have and pretty much there's new borough presidents everywhere, right? So Donovan Richards in Queens, and he's looking to fill new community board spots. And like the commissioner said, he's been pushing to get not only veterans, but a veteran committee or subcommittee so that they can have direct access to what we're talking about. But yeah, you got to get those applications in. It starts now and it closes out pretty quickly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Malone. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's meeting. It was awesome. It was fruitful. It was a lot of information, and it is not information that we're just going to take. We're going to take the information, process it, and get those answers and those concerns back to you. Our next VAB meeting will be in April. I'm going to ask Mercedes or one of the board members to please put the next VAB meeting in the chat. Prior to that, we will be we're going to send these questions because we have some that were emailed in. We have a lot of follow-up that we need to do. And also, I think Mercedes also put in the chat a way that you're able to save the questions and the answers and all the responses in the chat, because someone did ask, would we be able to submit a report? And I see you, the one Cheryl from the Galaxy, we can't hear you. And if you can try to type your question in the chat, then we're able to answer that. All right. And we're going to get ready to close out. So please send your email or email your question to one of the Veteran Advisory Board members. The email is in the flyer, and we'll email us the question. It will definitely answer it. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you for coming out. Please don't let this be your last time. At the next VAB meeting, let it be double this number, because we have to continue to get the word out. We have to continue to communicate. We have to continue to keep informed and keep this veteran group and body together. All right, everyone, have a great evening. Thank you so much. And we will definitely see you again in April, and look for our responses. The responses may be posted, but if you sent us your email address, we'll email you back directly. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you to the board. Thank you to DVS, to all the elected officials, Commissioner Holden and his cabinet, Councilmember Holden, Commissioner Hendon, and also Councilwoman Palladino. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you the next meeting in April. God bless, and everybody have a great evening. Be safe and stay well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone, God bless.
Thank you.
Good night.
I
Thank
sent
you.
my
Good
email.
night.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'll
you.
call you.